Hi, my name is David Weissman, and I'm sitting here with Jim Evans and his son, Gibran Evans. Jim, say hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Jim actually was the Lord High Executioner of the Shogun. No, actually, Jim was a crackerjack airbrush artist back in the 1970s and the 1980s, and he and I worked together on many different movie posters. I would draw them in magic marker, and he would do the beautiful airbrushed, spectacular finishes. So tell us about the poster you did for Shogun Assassin.
Shogun Assassin was interesting because I always loved the movie, and when you came along and said you were going to, recut some of the episodes into like a single movie, it was something I really wanted to do. So the process was working with you and trying to capture something of the action of this particular film. And of course, as usual, your magic marker comp was brilliant, and I was able to work with that and create what the world sees is that bloody picture of the swordsman with two swords in his hands, the baby cart sitting in front of him.
Ogami Ito. And Gibran, your son at the time was 5 or 6 or 7, Gibran?
7, I believe.
You were 7, but going on 5?
Yes.
And you were what? What was your role in this film at age 7?
It would be the voice of the delightful Daigoro.
So you were Daigoro. Because the truth be known, in all of the original series, which was called the Baby Cart series in English, it was called the Kozure Ookami, Papoosing Killer Wolf series in Japan. The Kozure Ookami films had the same actors. They were shot over about 2-3 years span. Tomisaburo Wakayama played Ogami Ito, and Daigoro was played by the same actor in all the 6 films, but he never said a word in any of the films. And my partner in this venture, Bobby Houston, came up with a brilliant notion of let's have Daigoro tell the story. And so normally the convention that people use when you have a child narrating a film is you have a mature woman doing a child's voice. But we decided, Jim, what did we decide?
Oh, well, it sounded like at the time you called me up and said you were testing young actors like all over Hollywood. And you said, you've got a couple of kids. Said, record their voices and send them over. So I recorded both Tagore and Gibran's voices, sent them over to you. Waited a couple of weeks, and you called me up and said, we want to use Gibran. And the rest is history, right?
Right. And Gibran, how was your reading skills in those days?
Pretty awful. I believe it was just say this, say that. I think the recording I did was pretty awful in that first studio where I was clanking my legs on the table. I was actually a little surprised you picked me, but pretty surreal experience overall.
Didn't we bribe you with things to get you to do it?
Yeah. It was an endless supply of famous Amos cookies and Coca-Cola. And once you got me in the studio, the fidgeting had to stop. So it was, I believe, a giant lazy boy and pillows under every limb of my body.
Oh, yeah, and, the pillows. I remember the pillows. That's right.
We went at it for a couple hours. Certainly can't do the voice anymore. I think puberty and the pack a day kind of ruined that, but still very, very haunting. Especially this intro piece is just surreal listening to it.
I think we did it more than a couple of hours. I think we did it about as much as you could stand, then we came back and did it about 2 or 3 times.
Right. I suppose I did have my limits at 7.
Yeah, it was over a period of days, wasn't it?
Yeah. And interestingly enough, we're in a studio on the 900 block of North Citrus, and it was recorded 1 block away on the 1000 block of Highland. And actually, I live on the 700 block of Citrus, which is another block from here. And that's where the film was cut. So I guess the film never left this 3-block radius.
No. Well, an interesting sidebar is the fact that Gibran, as a small child, I had taken him to that Japanese theater on Crenshaw to see the original films. And so he was fairly familiar with this film, although we never knew what was going on because the films didn't have any subtitles in those days. So we just watched the film because we loved the violence and all that.
Right. If I remember correctly, I introduced you to the Japanese... there was one on Crenshaw that was called the Kokusai.
Right.
And then there was the Toho La Brea. Was that still around?
I went to the Kokusai. I don't know about the Toho La Brea.
Maybe they closed it by then. And and also I introduced you to the Japanese robot store downtown, right?
Exactly.
And then what happened?
It pretty much changed my life. I had a robot. I was working in the studio in the back of a place where you worked at the time, doing some posters for you, and I had a Japanese toy that somebody had given me. You said, "I know a store that's got like tons of those toys." I said, "Where? In Tokyo?" And you go, "No, like maybe like 3 miles from here." So you told me where the place was. I got in the car like in the middle of the night and drove down there, and like pulled up in front of the store and looked in the window and almost had a heart attack. It was like dying and going to heaven. It was like a whole store full of Japanese robot toys. So I could barely wait till dawn came so I could get down there and begin buying them up. And I still have a collection of like hundreds of them.
Of course, these were all the toys I played with as a child.
Memory serves me correct. This was the early days of VHS, and I would get from Toho, I would get the VHS of the original films before we cut them up. We didn't cut them up on VHS, but then didn't you start collecting them too at that time?
Yeah.
So the kids were actually watching the movies, the 6 films from the series, and also Zatoichi.
Right.
Right?
Zatoichi and I think Sword of Justice too. That other one that isn't Tomisaburo Wakayama, and another one called Sword of Justice.
I don't remember that.
It was another series. He was kind of a Japanese James Bond.
People don't realize that a lot of people in Japan realize, but in this country, that Tomisaburo Wakayama is the brother of, in real life, of Shintaro Katsu, who plays Zatoichi, the blind swordsman. Yeah. And so Shintaro Katsu is the producer, I think, of this, of the original version of this.
Right, so. And I think he also, Tomisaburo Wakayama also appeared in Black Rain, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He played the Oyabun in Black Rain. Yeah. It was his last film, I think, or pretty much so, because I think he died after that. But he's pretty awesome, huh?
This is always one of my favorite parts here, the sword of the ball.
Mm-hmm. And interesting that, so let's talk about the dubbing. One of the qualities of this movie that made it kind of like unusual was that Bobby Houston and I found deaf mutes, a pair of deaf mutes, husband and wife, who we had them come in and lip read what the Japanese actors might be saying. And so they would come up with consonants and vowels and even words that seemed to be what they're saying in English. And then with these key words, we would write dialogue that fit. And the style of the dialogue was always a little stilted, but we are aiming it towards sword and sorcery, which at the time was basically Conan the Barbarian was coming out. And, we knew the Conan comic book. And so it seemed there was a big trend in sword and sorcery coming up. And this is the ultimate sword and sorcery theme, even though it's very oriental. Now, mind you, this is before Japanese culture had colonized American pop culture. So, not many people, saw samurai films unless you were film buffs watching Kurosawa or Yojimbo, Sanjuro, and some of the old classics. And these genre films that were made in the late 70s, mid-late 70s, like Zatoichi and this series, they weren't at all known in this country. Only just basically Japanese, native Japanese living in this country would see them. That's why they only played at the Kokusai and the Toho Lebrun.
And they weren't even subtitled.
They were subtitled.
Were they? Some of them were?
Yeah, no, they were always subtitled.
I remember seeing these originally subtitled.
Well, if you saw it in the theater, it was subtitled. The videos were not sub. You're thinking of the videos.
Oh, possibly the videos.
Yeah, because they always had one print of each film. They circulated among, I think there were 7 or 8 Japanese theaters around the country. San Francisco, a couple in Los Angeles, a couple in New York, maybe 1 or 2 elsewhere. But that was basically it, and these films would circulate.
Well, this is where you can also throw in the governor.
The governor.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger.
What about
the screening?
What?
The screening when he was getting ready for Conan?
Oh, yeah, he called me up.
Right.
Yeah, because I knew Arnold
set up a
from
screening
Golds.
And he,
were you there at the screening?
Yeah. Daigoro was there too.
Oh, did you meet Arnold?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Do you remember that, really?
Yeah, actually I do.
Yeah.
I thought Bobby set up the screening there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I knew Arnold from the 70s, from the original Golds.
Right.
And he contacted me because he wanted to see the sword style, the what's it called? The Seagull Wave Slash. What's it called?
Seagull Wave Slash style, right?
Right. which we're watching.
Nobody
here.
can beat that. Watch for his hand underwater, right?
Yeah, and then there was, of course, our friends, the rating board. They didn't like a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I tell that story, but I don't know if I want to tell it publicly. Well, I've already told it.
This is pretty bloody for its time.
Yeah, they no doubt.
Well, this is, you know, see, the whole thing about Japanese films, they don't consider this to be terribly bloody. This is considered fantasy. Around the same time as we did this, actually, from doing this, I met Mata Yamamoto, because he owned the...
Let's get the voice of this guy.
Oh, yeah, this guy. Who was this? This was Lenny Weinrib.
What a voice, huh?
Yeah.
That guy is so intense.
Yeah, he's actually a comedian. He lived on Citrus too. Actually.
Did he?
Yeah,
Everybody was right in the neighborhood.
yeah. Well, he lived in the ritzy part down below Beverly. But yeah, and the voice of Ogami Ito of our hero. Let's wait till he speaks. I don't think he's got so much to say in this scene.
No! Defeat my son in a fair fight, and you win your freedom.
He listens. He's listening. He's thinking.
I agree.
Yeah, there he said something. Well, anyway,
He
the
gets
voice.
to take on the sun.
What's that?
He gets to take on the sun now.
Yeah, son and son, and the voice of Ogami Ito was really hard to cast. Let me tell you, we felt that since we're basically doing an editorial job where we're re-editing a number of the films in the series. Basically, it was in part 2, and we used a chunk of part 1 to tell the backstory, and then we eviscerated from part 2 all of the backstory. Not backstory, side stories that were sort of indigenous to Japanese culture. Explanation of the Yagyu, who this are. Well, we call him the Shogun. In fact, he's a ninja leader. A ninja clan leader called the Yagyu. I don't quite understand what it's about. It's very Japanese. And so we simplified that and just called him the Shogun because James Clavell's novel had been a big bestseller, and NBC was making a miniseries out of it, Richard Chamberlain, and that was upcoming. So I just had this sense that we were moving towards a kind of a Japanese conscious pop cultural explosion, which happened.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely happened. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that was before the Japanese robot toys had come into their own here. You know, with the Shogun Warriors and all that.
Right. Nobody knew about this stuff. It was just absolutely, only had the robot shop downtown in Little Tokyo, and when we finished the film, the distributor who acquired it, Roger Corman's New World, we were Bobby and I wanted to call it Samurai and Son. That was our title. But that sounded too much like Sanford and Son. Wasn't that a TV show called
Sanford? Yeah, absolutely.
That would have been terrible.
It would have been terrible?
Yeah.
And I thought it was good. I don't watch TV, so I had no... But the alternative title was Shogun Assassin, and because Shogun's coming on TV, that was kind of like a no-brainer. This is Bobby actually dubs the innkeeper.
Oh, is that Bobby's voice?
Yeah.
Do you remember Bobby well, Gabron?
I remember Bobby very well. He used to call me Bortz.
Bortz.
Yes.
I used to call him Bortz.
He was quite
There
a
was
character.
a dog named Bortz, wasn't there?
There's a dog named Bortz, and his license plate was Bortz. I don't know where it came from, but it was a... this is his voice.
This is always a cool little scene. Daigoro washing his feet. I thought Daigoro had the hippest hairdo at the time. I mean, that was when punk was happening. I thought he had like about as punk a hairdo as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it was proto-punk. Anyway, I was saying that the voice of Ogami Ito was really hard to cast. I remember we went through real conniptions trying to find somebody. And
There's been a mistake. We have no.
Can I pay now? And would you keep this for me?
And finally, somebody, can't remember who, I'm trying to remember who would recommend. So there was a film director named Lamont Johnson. He had done, he was a good director. He was kind of like a journeyman director, middle-range journeyman director, and he had a great voice. And I called him up and asked him if he'd be interested in doing a little dubbing work, and he said, matter of fact, he wants to activate his SAG insurance, and this would be just exactly the amount he needed to activate his SAG insurance. So he did it for the SAG insurance.
It was definitely a casual coming together of things, and we could throw the thing in about Masa here too.
Who?
Masa.
Oh yeah,
Tazaki,
tell us about that.
So that the guy who did a lot of the sound effects was actually he was an Aikido teacher. At the time, I was going through a divorce, and my ex-wife was hooking up with her Aikido teacher, who I happened to get along really well with. I was sort of done with the wife, but I was kind of digging the Aikido teacher. And he hit it off really well with David, because obviously David spoke Japanese really well. So he came over in full regalia and showed his skills with a samurai sword. And David pulled out a bunch of watermelons and had him slice through the watermelons and use sound effects. I took pictures of him in order to get the body right for the poster. So he played a pretty big role. That's like another family thing with...
Yeah, and soon after he became my stepfather, actually.
So David had a way of bringing everybody together into like this one huge, gigantic family.
Without really trying to.
Yeah.
In fact, I disapproved enormously of it. And, yeah. Well, this was a scene which is all made by the sound, kind of like a hornet nest sound that this old friend of mine from New York, Bob Margoliff, with whom I made Chow Manhattan, and he had gotten into the Moog synthesizer very early in late 66, early 67, and by this time, 1980. He had a partner, English guy named Malcolm Cecil, and they had done the Stevie Wonder albums during the 70s, Music of My Mind and so forth. And they had this kind of electronic Stonehenge of a Moog synthesizer that occupied an entire studio, went around a kind of semicircle. And Malcolm came up with this sound that... if you don't hear it in stereo, it doesn't really make sense. But if you hear it in really maxed out stereo, it's kind of like mind-numbing. So that was what made that scene work.
Oh, that was a really good sound in that scene.
Then let's talk about the music.
Ah, the music.
Oh my God! Oh,
so good.
I mean, how much can you really go into it? The details of it? Huh?
I still find myself humming that forest scene.
Well, that actually went on to become a big favorite with people. That sound.
Which sound?
The sound of like the that theme that was created for this movie.
Which one?
The actual sound, the theme for Shogun Assassin. There was like a big single put out that was like a theme from Shogun Assassin.
Is that right?
Yeah. I had it for a while.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Who put it out?
I don't know. I had like a big. It burned in the fire, but it was definitely there.
I think I still have a copy actually.
Yeah.
The fire means Jim lost all of his artwork and everything in a Malibu fire, right?
Yeah, in 1992.
90? No,
93.
Later than that, no?
No, that was it.
You lost all your originals,
Yeah,
including the Shogun
the original Shogun Assassin poster.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
yeah, all burned up.
Uh-huh.
But go ahead and go into the soundtrack, because the soundtrack was a whole story in and of itself. I mean, you had the guy from Paul Revere and the Raiders doing it.
Mark Lindsay.
Didn't Bobby do some compositions, or was it just editing?
I can't remember. He was he might have, but I don't think so. What happened was, how did I meet Mark Lindsay? You remember that?
I don't remember. You just came up with me and said, "Yeah, I got the guy from Paul Revere and the Raiders." I thought that's kind of a jump for the soundtrack. I didn't know he was into like what he was, the sound that he was into. I mean, he was more like at that point he was more like Giorgio Moroder than the original guy that we remember.
Well, it just was one of those things where you couldn't, you didn't. It wasn't a creative decision. I met him somehow through somebody, and we had such a strong connection. It was like very bizarre, and it just, and he lived in the top of Laurel Canyon. He had the studio in his house, and he had a Lamborghini, and he had all this. This world of endless series of equipment and playthings. It was, this is not new to me. This goes back to the '60s in New York, with Margolef and everything. But this took it up another notch, and there was a lot of, influences around and so forth. And but he really deeply needed to do this. And so
he got into it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he really deeply needed to do this, and his whole obsession was everything is going digital, and I couldn't understand what the hell he's talking about.
He was definitely ahead of his time.
He was definitely ahead of his time, but he was so vulnerable. I think a lot of his life he'd been taken advantage of by a lot of people and so forth, and he was so vulnerable. Somehow it never came together. And he had to bring in a guy who was basically a jingle writer, or a guy that did commercials, named Michael Lewis. He's the one who actually wrote the themes.
Oh, is he?
And the two of them did them together. They both had Lamborghinis, so they were Lamborghini buddies. And or were they Ferraris? I can't remember. Anyway, point is that there was these two exotic, low-slung, Italian sports cars or roadsters or race cars parked up at Lindsay's studio all the time, and it was quite an experience. It was I don't know. It is some memorable music, but I don't understand how it ever got made.
I don't remember either. 'Cause I just remember, there was times when we drove up to get the tapes, and we were supposed to stand around until there was a whole kind of a thing. Remember, we went up there, we were gonna try to get the tapes, and he wasn't gonna give up the tapes, and
there was that too.
There was an enormous amount of drama associated with it.
Was there really?
Yeah.
I don't remember. The biggest drama I remember is associated with the music, and I don't understand how these two stories overlap in time in my memory, but they definitely both were there. We months and months and months with Mark Lindsay until Michael Lewis finally, basically, delivered the goods with Mark. But there was also, I don't know how these things overlap. Maybe you'll remember. There was the Cars. You remember this?
Yeah. You mean the band?
The band.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Bobby found a musical bridge from a then current Cars album. They were a huge group at that time, 79, 80. And 79 this was. And before we actually did the film, so maybe early 80. Anyway, Bobby found this musical bridge that was just dynamite, and we cut a trailer to it, and we went around trying to raise money for the film, to make the film, to actually, buy the rights and do the editing and do the Dolby, do the dubbing and then the Dolby mix, which is essentially what the whole film job was. It was a totally post-production thing, just conceptually having a point of view of how to take this series and make it palatable to an American audience. And this scene, by the way, was a favorite of the MPAA, the rating board. The dismemberments and the...
So, Gabron, is this one of your favorite scenes?
Yeah, and Sandra Bernhardt's finest moment, I think she comes in with that laugh that is just worth the price of admission.
Yes, we should talk about the fact that this was Sandra Bernhardt's motion picture debut.
Yeah, that's an important thing to get in.
Yeah. And it was... Bobby saw her at a stand-up, a comedy store or something. I thought she was amazing. We went to see her. And we approached her about, you want to do a movie dubbing job? And she said, yes, but I want $200. I want it in an envelope, but I want it stuck in my pocket before we record. That was her criteria. But that was her first job.
She did a good job on it.
Oh, yeah.
This is your best man.
And here comes the laugh.
No roof would swallow him.
Who knew? Sandra Bernhardt. Right?
She went on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, this scene kind of got me at 7. It was just I don't know, it wasn't like much of a fair fight going on there, and yeah, I can see how the MPA might have.
Well, what happened with the MPA was they have a series of.
You got that sound again.
All right.
That strange sound.
MPA has a board essentially middle-of-the-road housewives and all-around good citizens
Oh, yeah.
who want to protect America's youth from everything but what they need to be protected from. And of course, they see something like this, and it's just too many dismemberments and too many gougings and rakings and et cetera, et cetera. So they don't practice censorship, so they won't tell you what to do. They'll just watch it, and they'll kind of score it on some secret basis and then give you their perception. And we had to get an R rating. We couldn't get what then was called the X rating, because that would rank it with pornography. And so we went back several times, took out every time a little bit more. And the good thing is they didn't have a restriction on how many times you could bring it back, as long as I think you have to pay them or something. And so finally I said, we're so poor, can we possibly show it to you without the soundtrack, because that would be just to keep cutting the soundtrack, it's too expensive. So they said, well, there's nothing in the rules that prohibits that. And I have a theory that really 65% of the emotional impact of any film is going to come from the sound rather than the image. And so once you take the sound away, it just wasn't anywhere near as gruesome. And they kind of let it slip through.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And so once we got the rating, I said, oh, Jesus, put it all back in. What are they going to know? It's all going out in one weekend anyway. What are they going to do? Go out and check 400 prints? Well, they did.
They did?
Yeah. And they revoked the rating, I think. I can't remember, but...
Is that why it got banned in Britain for so many years?
No. Britain, they have their own rating system and a different criterion. But I think that we got away with it because it was really a one-weekend film. There were 400 prints that went out, and by the time they discovered it, so what? It was already out there. And on home video, it doesn't really matter what the rating is.
It actually charted pretty high, didn't it? Considering how few theaters opened in?
Well, that was a lot of theaters in those days. For an independent film, 400 was a big, wide break. No, it was actually very wide released. It did very well. Yeah, it was like on the top 10 that week. But 1980, that was a big release, at least for something like this.
This is always a great one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how he proves his worth.
Well, he wasn't really about money. He just took the same 400 Ryo or whatever it was every time. And then he pays it out. It's about walking the earth and being haunted, I guess is what this was about. But like we were saying earlier, it preceded the whole Japanese pop cultural phenomenon. I mean, can you imagine there was a time when there was not a sushi bar on every block in America? Shogun, the series, the miniseries, the book, the miniseries. To some degree, this is a kind of like a off the wall pop cultural artifact. There's just something in 1980 where Japanese culture really became the hip thing, and everybody started eating sushi.
Yeah, there wasn't any sushi bars around. Well, it's interesting how this thing has gone on and gotten a half-life with the Wu-Tang Clan and the Kill Bill series, that sort of thing. It's become like a sort of a pop culture touchstone.
Who discovered the Wu-Tang Clan? Was that Jabron?
You mean who discovered that it was on their album?
Yeah.
We were supposed to actually do the album cover for that.
Is that right?
Yeah. The guy came out and I met with him and we were working on it, but it was too much distance and I had too much other work at the time. And then when it came out, we just realized that it sampled from.
But when he came out to see you, did he?
No, he didn't have any idea.
No connection.
No connection.
That's bizarre.
And it's like, here, this guy over here is the voice he sampled.
Yeah.
So it was nice meeting him. And then, of course, for a few years after that, it was like all these high school stoners giving me what they called mad props with the voiceover for their favorite album.
What does that mean?
Just great job. You're cool.
Uh-huh.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, how'd they know?
Well, I told them, or I would come across them listening to it. I had my brother, the son of Masa, the guy who did the sound effects, I had a lot of friends and lived near me, and kind of got around like that.
Because Wu-Tang Clan's album didn't give any credits.
Right. And I still run into people, here and there who make the connection.
I think at the time they thought this was like a really obscure, like Japanese film or something like that, and had no idea that it was like really done here. I mean, they thought it was just like another one of those like sort of cheap Shaw Brothers type things.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a lot in the mid 70s at the time that Bruce Lee exploded. I think that would have been in 73, 74 in Europe first. First time I ever saw Bruce Lee was on Wardour Street in London. I mean, it's the first time I became aware of Oriental films starting to make a commercial mark. So the Kung Fu series of films exploded in the early mid 70s, and then after Bruce Lee's death, there was a plethora of cheap knockoff Kung Fu films from Hong Kong and all over the place. And then they tried samurai films, on that same kind of marketing track, but it didn't quite make it. Samurai films didn't have the same appeal to the urban market as Kung Fu. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Well, I think in the early 60s, I mean, surfers were always into samurai films. Like when I started surfing, people say, hey, you got to check out this film, like Seven Samurai, all that sort. It was like, and when I went to Hawaii, surfers were way into like Japanese films. They'd go into Honolulu and watch all the Japanese films that were imported and, playing at the Honolulu theaters.
Well, wherever there's Japanese communities, like in Hawaii or in San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York, then you're going to see the classics. I mean, that's how I first started becoming aware of it in the 60s. But I'm talking about mass market. There was no samurai films that made the impression that Bruce Lee films did.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean it was an urban phenomenon. It was appealing to the urban market. The same track as blaxploitation films and so forth. But it was really beyond that. It was a broader market, Kung Fu. But samurai films never quite worked. That's why I had so much trouble getting this going. Bobby and I, we really, about 2 years before we found the money to do this.
Wasn't there a one that was released, like another version that was released? It wasn't like really dubbed. They just took one of the episodes and released it to like drive-in theaters about 2 years before you did.
Columbia had the rights to part 4, I think, of the series. Yes, it was just straight dubbed, and did go down a kind of like a drive-in theater circuit through Columbia. You're right about that.
Right.
But and again, what they were trying to do was find a film, a genre film that would continue doing the kind of money that grossing the kind of returns that Kung Fu did. And I think that was what proved that it doesn't work. The samurai films don't work. When Columbia they went into the series, they picked the wrong one of the 6. They picked number 4,
right,
when clearly number 2 was the one. And they did release it dubbed, but just a straight dub. There was no sense of play. They didn't try to make it more than it was. We tried to make it much more than it was. We tried to make it into sword and sorcery. We tried to make it into, something that could compete with Conan, and on some level we succeeded. Certainly not at any gigantic money level. It was, it did very well for like I say, 400 theaters. But
that was a great combo, wasn't it?
Yo.
Oh yeah, and then we get the daikon radishes coming up.
The daikon radishes.
Actually get one into the cart.
You notice, Daigoro, you lost a little bit of top knot there.
Yep. I think one of the most popular repeated lines requests I get is the scene before this with the body count. 345. Got to know how many people to pray for.
Right.
That was a good line. That was always one of my favorites there, right?
So, as far as the logo art on this, I remember a lot of anxiety around having to redo it repeatedly. Was that you directing, Jim, David, as far as...
you mean the poster art?
Yeah, the logo that shows at the beginning of the film. I do remember
You mean
blood.
You mean the actual...
lettering.
The lettering.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lettering was... Well, what was that about? I mean, it's just...
We went through a lot of different lettering styles, and you wanted sort of a blood splattered style, and you try to get like a sort of a realistic blood splatter style, and not make it look dopey and just kind of fake blood splattered. There was a lot of redos on that.
Yeah, I remember there was an awful lot of, for something that was a simple high-com piece of just black and white art. I remember there was a lot of Sturm and Drang over that. I don't know why. I guess because when I worked for Preminger, he used to torture me about, you graphic designers, you make everything so complicated. You have to simplify, And so I just didn't think you had the the simplification right.
Right. Well, sometimes you would get it in the marker drawings you would do, but you would do those in 5 minutes at 3:00 in the morning, and then I'd have a hard time trying to reproduce that by really thinking it out. I'd always overthink it,
Right. Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
No, but you're right, Jerron. There was probably more time put in in getting the lettering right than it was in the goddamn illustration, which was monstrously complicated.
Yeah.
But that was really your masterpiece illustration of that time, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it was the one that I really wanted to do.
Yeah, and you photographed what's his name, Masa, in various angles.
Right, holding the sword and all that.
Yeah.
But I thought the sort of sea of dead, ninjas
Corpses.
laying on both sides of him. I mean, it looks like he's kind of like in a tunnel of blood or something, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Flaming tunnel of blood.
Tunnel of blood. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was probably like the one image that I really got into. I mean, almost everything I did was just trying to draw something other than something I was thinking about at the time. I mean, surf things I sort of liked, but that thing had the kind of action that I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, I can't meet deadlines painting those kinds of paintings. No. I mean, it's like when in those days for poster art, they give you the job on Friday afternoon, and they'd want to see comps on Monday morning, and they'd want to see comps look like that. So generally, the poster artists that were successful at that time would be, people that could knock out stuff like that in 2 days. I was I could knock out something really beautiful in about 2 weeks.
But this took months.
That one took a while, didn't it?
Yeah, it took a couple months, and I used to get so bent out of shape, right?
Well, look at the detail on the face. I mean, I wanted to get his face right, and I wanted to get Daigoro's face right. I mean, all the detail on the baby cars.
This is the song that they put the single out with. And this whole montage where he...
Oh, is this the song?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Is that the song?
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember it, but I mean, I never saw the single.
Yeah, there was an actual a large 12-inch, 12-inch vinyl that was done.
Really?
It had the logo on the front and everything. Yeah, I definitely had that.
Oh, I think that was done for a promotion.
Yeah, it was done for promotion.
For the promotion of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And on the other side, it had the radio edit or something like that.
Yeah. That was, okay. I thought you meant someone else did it. No, we did that. Shannonberg did that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Radio promotion.
Well, I could certainly identify with Daigoro. I mean, having his own little bag of tricks in that baby cart was perfect casting.
It's funny because everyone involved with the financing of this used to be a pot dealer. So
I think a lot of the movies between 1975 and 85 were financed by drug deals.
well,
I was not aware of this.
No. This is a great fight scene here.
Despite being exposed to endless violence and gore, the drugs are off limits. Gotta get his sword back. I love that scene.
Yeah, he's whole again. Yeah, it was nice with it that you sequenced everything on this. You know, there's nice Zen interludes, you know, bookended by like these incredibly violent sequences, and then you get these things again.
Yeah, when I saw it young, I had a little trouble following it, but later, I mean, it's definitely strung together quite well. It really tells a good story.
Well, the story essentially is not that different from the original Japanese Part 2, except that it had a number of digressions. There were cultural digressions. They would sit around and talk about the problems that the clan was having with the dye. There were dye makers, right? And they made this blue dye, and somebody was coming along with purple dye or something.
Right.
And then so we just got rid of all that and simplified that whatever it is the ninja causing trouble. So just really keep it brain dead. I think that it was really the editing job was really that of simplifying the Japanese version, and just giving it a different pace. And the dialogue, there's not a single word of dialogue in the in Shogun Assassin that is from the original. Everything is being rewritten, as I said, from the perspective of what could their lips be saying. You know, the ideas are similar, but none of the dialogue is the same.
Right.
Now, may I suggest you put your
So the editing was done by Lee Percy. He's actually gone on to like a lot bigger things, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think I've seen his name even recently.
Yeah.
There it is again. Love it.
So,
Yeah, he did a good editing job
what
on this.
happened to your swordsman will happen
I
to
think this
you
is the
too.
first thing he did.
Is it?
Yeah, he was doing trailers.
Women.
Bobby and I were doing
It's
trailers
intolerable.
for a couple of
He's
distributors. I met him
intimidated you.
Don't
when
worry.
he was cutting
We're very
trailers for
sure
Alan
he'll
Shackleton,
lose his power
one
once
of
he's
these
without his son.
scumbag distributors.
Only the little boy
And
pray to him.
I think this was his first feature. And then we did Killing of America with Len Schrader and Yamamoto,
Yeah.
that Japanese documentary about violence for Japan. People don't realize, I mean, I met Len Schrader through this. What happened?
Did you through this?
Yeah. Actually, this gave, in a strange way, this gave birth to Kiss of the Spider Woman. Because what happened was, as I said, Mata Yamamoto, Japanese producer, had just come to Los Angeles. He'd been sent here by the head of Toho they gave him an office on the Fox lot to learn American movie making, approach so they could interface Japan, Fox in Japan, and Toho. And so Mata was kind of like a high-end independent producer, which wasn't any such thing in Japan at the time. He was a unique character. And he had just come here, and I had just bought the rights, licensed the rights from Toho's office in Los Angeles. And it took about a year to do that because the gentleman who was selling the rights had been here for 9 years and had never sold anything. So when I called up and said I want to license Kozure Ookami, he was incredulous. So he just said, I have to check with Japan. So this is
The phone call I've been waiting for 9 years.
Yeah, for 9 years. So I would call him every week. He said, no news yet. He was in a state of shock that he had to play this one out.
Right, right. This could be the only thing he's ever going to sell.
Exactly. And the numbers never changed, but he just played it out. And I remember it took a year, a better part of a year. So when it's finally done, he had the upper hand because he made me wait.
Right.
It wasn't about money. It was about waiting. And his name was Ueda-san. And so one day he calls me up shortly after. He says, Ueda-san, tomorrow, a very big producer come from Japan. Yeah, he come here tomorrow. He owner of lights owner. I said, lights? He owns the lights? No, lights. You know what you buy. Hontoni, no. Okay, so he want to meet you. Oh, really? Yes, please come to office tomorrow. 明日で, 3 o'clock. Yeah? Very good. Hi, Ueda-san. Yes, Ueda-san. One more thing. Yes, Ueda-san. Please, Ueda-san, wear a tie. And I said,
In those days, you didn't wear ties very often, did you?
I found a tie, went there. And there's this guy, looks like a Sicilian gangster. His name is Mataichiro Yamamoto. And we could take one look at each other. We said, let's get out of here. So he comes over to the house on Citrus, and the espresso starts to flow. Next thing I know, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. We had such a good time talking about a million things. Turns out he had just come, and he was staying with a friend of his who he had, a writer who he had, he and his wife, Leonard Schrader and his wife Cheiko, they had done a couple of films together in Japan. Now they're all back here in the States, and Mata came over, and he was staying at Len's house. And so we were, shortly thereafter, we all got together, and that was the beginning of my relationship with Leonard Schrader that went on for 28 years. We did Kiss of the Spider Woman. Actually, 3 years later, we started shooting. It went pretty quick. But first thing we did was that one night we were watching TV at Len's house, and at a 7-Eleven about 5 blocks away, there was a holdup, and some guy gets shot on the video surveillance film. And Mata could believe, how could they have this? He couldn't speak much English. But it's not possible. How can they show this on television was the idea. The idea being that a film like this, like Shogun Assassin, like Kozure Ookami, Lone Wolf, with all the blood, you could see it on TV. And it was taken for granted that it's not offensive. But to show an actual murder, like, for example, the Kennedy assassination, something you could never, the Zapruder film could never be shown on Japanese television. And a surveillance tape from a 7-Eleven holdup couldn't be shown on Japanese television, but this can be. And
was this actually a television series or a movie series?
It began as a manga,
a comic book.
Yeah, right. It began as a manga.
It's a manga now again. I mean,
it's always been a manga, and then it became a TV series. And then it became a series of features. So it went actually the opposite route that it would in the United States. In the United States, it would start as a feature, then maybe become a TV series, and then maybe become a comic book or something like that.
Right. I think Dark Horse now has the comic rights to it, and they feature the Baby Cart comics.
Oh, God Almighty! I got the rights in those days. The rights for a feature was generally considered 5 to 7 years. So I got it for 7 years. So I got it from 1980 to 1987. So 1987 comes along. I by this time, had done Spider-Woman and Oscars and all that sort of, and a bunch of other things. And so this was just like, oh my God, the rights are over. I had an option to renew the rights, and I could have done it, but I just didn't think. Honestly, I just didn't think it was worth anything. I thought it was, I didn't see that it would have an afterlife.
Well, who could have really seen at that point? I mean, that's when they had those those comedy cop movies where the one cop would always do like the Japanese TV voices. I mean, voices of like kung fu movies and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Japanese movies at that time were like more like a joke. And it wasn't really until the early '90s when the whole thing started turning around again.
Well, what do you mean? Jamal, what do you think he's talking about?
Like kung fu parodies. I mean, like the Karate Kid. Let's see. Well, there's that guy from Police Academy.
Police Academy, yeah.
Yeah.
And he mouthed like every time he talked.
Right. He was doing the really bad dub jobs from whatever kung fu movies are out there. Just B garbage.
Yeah, by the late '80s, these things the whole Japanese culture thing kind of hit the wall in terms of the films and things like that.
Yeah, it ran its course.
Ran its course. Yeah,
I see.
And then it got revived by by rap groups and hip hop groups
who really dug it.
Huh?
That's curious.
Yeah.
Well, see, from my point of view, when we did this, the curse was Woody Allen had done "What's Up, Tiger Lily" back in the '60s, right?
Right.
And that was you've seen that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like out and out parody of bad Japanese dubbing, right? And so what we were trying to do, and I think to some degree we accomplished, is to make it as meticulously dubbed as possible. So that almost you could be convinced that they're speaking English, which I think is fairly accomplished.
Yeah, it's one of the best dub jobs I've ever seen.
And then the other thing was that it was not common to do a Dolby Stereo mix at this time. That was still a big deal.
Right.
And so and it was very expensive. and very time-consuming, so that's why it was expensive. Somehow we did the dub over at Goldwyn Studio in 4 days flat and 1 day for the printmaster. So that was like unbelievable accomplishment that was able to get a Dolby stereo, spread tracks and everything in 4 days flat. So that was pretty terrific.
That was a good one. And then we get the... I never got that.
Ever get that one now? I still have my sword. It's a
Yeah.
little rusty, but... Wasn't that the sword we used for the sound effects? Or did Masa bring his own?
Masa had his own, didn't he?
I don't
I
remember.
think he has a few. He still teaches.
Yeah, he's got a very traditional family. He's got a little suit of armor back in Tokyo and the whole deal.
Oh, he's back in Tokyo now?
No, but I mean, he visits his family there.
Yeah. I always love this scene because it really is a love story between these two killers, you know. They just admire each other's ability to live by. So Quentin Tarantino or Quarantino, so he, I guess he might. What's your take on all of that?
He just considered it like, probably the classic of all time in some ways. I mean, this is kind of considered in some ways kind of the classic of all time. I mean, of like what it is. I mean, it's not like a category that has like a lot of competition because you have like the real thing, the stuff that actually came over and it was dubbed. And then you have this one that was created, with like you said, a sense of love by people who actually, I mean, I love the movies and you love the movies and Gabron, loved the movies. I mean, almost everybody that was involved in this thing actually loved these movies and did it more because they really wanted to see a really good one done. Yeah. Than just wanting to make some money. It wasn't like a cheap knockoff where you just tried to sort of capitalize on like whatever.
Well, we definitely were trying to make money, but there was a fantasy involved that kind of like finally was more important than the money because we weren't sure we were going to make any money. The fantasy was more important.
Well, I think that your knowledge of Asian culture and Japan in general, added a lot to it. I mean, if it had been just all the rest of us, we could have actually missed some things. But I mean, you can speak Japanese, and you had like a deep-seated knowledge of Japanese culture.
Well, that's honestly, to be perfectly blunt, I mean, I really didn't. I appeared to, yeah. When we made this, I'd never been to Japan.
No,
I went to Japan later as a result of this, of meeting Mata Yamamoto. We started a company together, FilmLink, or he had the company and I became the head of the U.S. division, whatever it would be. And then we started doing things for Japan, like The Killing of America. That was the first time I went to Japan.
Well, you certainly. I mean,
it really came from Japanese movies. When I lived in New York during the Edie Sedgwick factory days, anytime that I was absolutely wanted to get away from everything, I would go over to the Toho had a theater on 45th Street and Broadway, the Toho 45th Street. And every week I would go there, and whatever was playing there, and that's where you'd see the classic Kurosawa's, Imamuras, and all the classic black and white samurai, what they call jidaigeki, which is period pieces. Mm-hmm. And that's all I really was interested in. I mean, high-low, there's some beautiful Kurosawa films that are also haunting, but just somehow going into medieval Japan and these remarkably crafted samurai films was an escape, was a primary escape, as good as LSD for me, right, personally. So I wound up seeing everything that I could. And when I came to Los Angeles eventually, you had the Toho on La Brea and then the Kokusai. And so, I just would see all these movies and the James Clavell novel, Shogun, is real sucker bait because it really gives you a lot. James Clavell's never been to Japan. And he wrote a novel that seems so perfectly researched. So it gives you a sense of Japanese history, kind of like as a chronicle à clé, which is slightly twisting Japanese history to make for dramatic effect for a novel. But I mean, I guess I just knew more than most people, but I was not in any way hardly a Japan expert.
Well, certainly at that time you seem to be. Are these your favorite characters, Gabron?
Masters of Death, yeah.
Masters of Death.
And not too long ago, you actually we had Daigoro with one actual speaking line where it wasn't just narration. He said hi to a monkey.
He said what?
Hi to the little monkey.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually his original voice too,
Hi.
wasn't it? Wasn't that the voice in the movie? Did you say, was that your voice?
Yeah, it was me.
I don't think he says anything in the movie.
That was, I think that was the one shot there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, in the original movie, I don't think he says anything. I think that
Right, he was
Bobby
just
snuck
opened
it
his
in.
mouth like he was smiling at the monkey, thought he was funny.
Yeah,
I do remember how animate you were about how I said the word shogun, as well as the pronunciation of harakiri.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of grilled that in. I think we did probably the most takes on those two words when it came down to it.
Harakiri was kind of a joke for a while because I gave him a hard time about that because he made him say it about 35 times I think in a row.
the rakings, by the way, particularly upset the MPAA. They made the rakings was a big deal for them. Gougings and the rakings. So the Masters of Death actually was more upsetting to the MPA board than just about anything. I think it's very inventive.
Very inventive. Well, I think that you're right about Japanese films. I mean, if you're a creative person, the very first time you see one, it takes you to a magical place. It's not like a European film or something where you're like somewhat familiar. I mean, the culture seems basically like something you're familiar with, but Japanese culture is unusual and magical in a way. I mean, everything about it is creative, like well designed.
Very
I mean, look at these
designed,
guys, their hats and the way they dress. I mean, who else would think of these hand pieces they're wearing? And of course, the beautiful blood-splattered
rice paper.
rice paper.
Get rid of them.
Keeps the change, right?
Keep the change. Hi.
And of course, they have that sort of spaghetti western feel to them, too.
Oh,
Definitely
yeah.
spaghetti western, yeah.
It's all about the eyes.
Yeah, a lot of eyes. I mean, this guy, all he was eyes, wasn't he? Just like he just has to look at somebody and they just know. And they go, oh.
With sun?
They're like, I like in Japanese movies when the two really heavy-duty people like meet each other. The first time they never fight, they just go like, I'll meet you later.
Uh-huh. Just checking you out. We'll get this sorted.
Yeah, we'll get it sorted out later by the river.
Masters of Death scum.
Masters of Death.
I think Bobby did this voice too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Let me off at the next stop.
You should mention that Bobby went on to win an Academy Award in Canada.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, for a documentary called The Children's March,
Right.
Martin Luther King. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, Bobby hated this whole process. He just thought this was very grueling. He characterized that I basically kidnapped him on a pirate galley and enslaved him.
Right.
Doesn't he says that in interviews or something like that?
Does he?
Yeah, I think so. He blames
Well, he
me
wanted
for-
to be a real director.
Yeah,
He's sick. Those swine.
and I was always bludgeoning him.
And of course, then when you did, was it Growing Pains?
Hell.
You stuck a couple of samurai kids in there?
Yeah,
Never mind.
there was a touch of that.
Make it
Yeah, you shaved my older brother's head and stuck a little dollop of hair on it.
Is he there? Is he in
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Tagore's in there?
And I was one of the orphanage kids. Stuck me in a basement asking for water.
Oh, you're in there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you seen that lately? You used to be able to buy it from Canada.
Is that right?
I still got a VHS.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of VHSs on eBay from Canada.
You return my knife.
This is a great scene here.
A little more tension between the men.
A lot of tension. There you go. Thank you. So, Bobby, why didn't Bobby get in here for this session?
I haven't spoken to him in a while. He's kind of a, I don't know. We email every once in a while, but I don't really know. He lives in somewhere in New England now, Mass in the Berkshires.
He doesn't live out in Ohio anymore?
No. Oh no, he moved out of Ohio a long time ago. Went back east.
Now, who had the main focus in taking all the clips and bits and going like, okay, this is telling the story I mean, was that you? Or I mean, Bobby did get director credit, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby. Yeah, and this is you get into a whole. It's Much Ado About Nothing. I mean, this was my idea. I mean, I essentially, like I said, during the '60s, living in New York, I became hooked on Japanese films, and so I had seen just about everything that I could possibly see, from about '64 all the way through about 70, 77, 78. I think I came up with this in 78. And to be perfectly frank, when I finished Chow Manhattan, which is the Edie Sedgwick film, 5 years with Edie Sedgwick and going through the, detritus of the 60s, by 72 and 73, by the time it was all over, I was pretty wiped out, and I characterized my existence here in California as kind of like a beached whale. And I met Bobby, I think, in 76, and he had just come bright-eyed and bushy-tailed out of Harvard, and come to New York. He had published a novel, starred in The Hills Have Eyes. Actually, Bobby's in.
I remember
he
that.
gets beat up pretty good in that.
Yeah, he's the only survivor in that story. But anyway, he was a star of an exploitation film. What's it? Wes Craven or Tobe Hooper? Wes Craven, right?
Yeah.
Wes Craven's first film, or one of his first films. And so he had an acting career, and he was a writer, and also he was a socialite. He kind of was flavor of the week at Studio 54 during that whole period. So he was a well-connected kid from the East Coast, and when I met him, he wanted to make films, and wasn't quite sure how that was all going to work. And I came up with this idea. He thought I was nuts, but went along with it, and we just had this way of working things out. And he was the one who really wanted to be a director, so he got the director's credit. But
There's a story on that.
what's that?
There's a story on that.
What's that?
That's the story. I mean, that's
There is the story.
Yeah, there is the story. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, essentially, none of us are the directors. I mean, someone was hired by Toho to make this film,
Right.
and what we did is make an American version. So we produced and directed an American version, which is what it says in the credits. But people think that we directed the film. No, we didn't. We took an existing film and portions of another one and did an editing job. It was a conceptual marketing job, is what it was. It was to I think the sharp thing was to know that, or to believe with all your fantasy that this is something that people are going to want to see if you cook it in the right way. And I think we cooked it very well, and a lot of people saw it. But I think that the thing, like I said earlier, that you could never expect was the afterlife, that it would have this influence.
right.
Yeah, when I went to see Kill Bill 2 and they put on the first 10 minutes of that intro, I was like, what? I had no idea it was in there. Started getting all warm and fuzzy inside.
You didn't know that you're in Kill Bill?
No, not until I was watching it in the theater.
Did you know it was in there? Did they
Me?
contact you?
Well, I got a call about a week before the Kill Bill opened. I got a call from two hysterical women at Miramax. They insisted on speaking to David Weissman. I said, okay. And I said, no, you don't understand. This is urgent. We have to speak to David Weissman right away. I said, well, okay. So what? No, you don't understand. This is Miramax, and we're in licensing, and they wanted to license the opening of Shogun Assassin, and they thought they had bought the license from Toho, but Toho didn't know that whether they had the rights to the soundtrack. Yeah, so there was quite a toss.
That would have been tricky.
Right. It was very tricky.
We all know how those
Very
legal
tricky.
people get.
Yeah.
A little irate.
Very tricky. So, I mean, that's finally I gave them permission, and
I mean, there's on the web. There's like tons of stuff about Shogun Assassin. I mean, there's tons of stuff.
I think that's Patrick Macias, who wrote the Tokyo Pop book,
Right.
right? And then he had that magazine, or he was editor of that magazine, Tokyo Pop, up in San Francisco.
Right.
And then he did the story. It's about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. That's what really got it going. I tried to get the rights back at one point when I realized that it was really valuable, but by that time it was too late.
Who actually has the rights now?
Well, to the actual film itself, I gave the copyright back to Mr. Ueda. You know, the poor guy asked me to wear a tie.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember in 80, so I lost the rights in 87 because I didn't renew them. And the following year, he came and begged me to give back the copyright because they never had an experience like this where we actually, because we had created a new soundtrack, because as I mentioned earlier, there is no dialogue that's in this film that's native to the original film, and there's no music or sound effects, so we created a new work that's based on an already existing work.
Right.
And so there is a copyright called Shogun Assassin, which is built upon the copyright of the original work. And so in the contract, no one had ever done this before. So Toho, which is a venerable company, didn't know how to deal with it. So, you know, the contract, the license to you know, give us the right to do this, gave us the right to copyright it during the term.
Right.
Right? And so, but what happens is copyright doesn't expire when the term's over. So poor Mr. Ueda-san came to me and said, "Oh, Ueda-san, please. I'm going back to Japan. I'll lose my head." So I said, what the hell, here. I gave it to him. If I had not signed that over, I would own it to this day. But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Yeah, because I just didn't think it was worth anything.
They didn't give you any trouble with this scene here?
Well, this scene here, you know, is the essence of what this movie's really all about. It's a love story.
A bit suggestive lead up, no doubt. And then, of course, you get Daigoro playing with exposed breasts.
Yeah, we have
later.
to keep warm in the freezing ship. Or are they off the ship now?
Off the ship, but wet, cold.
Right. Oh, from swimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
A burning ship, yeah. So she expects rape, but it's all about warmth. So see, it's really a metaphor. These are two killers and just about a little fuzzy warmness. Daigoro, come on over here.
Just looking for like happiness in a brutal world.
Yeah.
More afraid of peace than war.
See, they're reuniting now with the slain mother and child, and
How can you save me?
pretty simple.
Yeah, it definitely has that quality. You know, the metaphorical quality all throughout. There's never too many words that interfere with like your interpretation of like what you're seeing. But it is one of my favorite parts.
This here.
Yeah, you're right. It's like a love story.
She almost goes for the sword, but ain't gonna happen.
That's always a good piece where he bumps. And of course, this is like Fatal Attraction, where she reaches under the bed for the screwdriver, and it never really goes for it, right?
Yeah, but if you think if you make a diagram of the story, this is kind of like coming full circle from the beginning, when the mother is assassinated.
Right. You definitely like brought the whole baby card story together into one thing. 'Cause, I mean, if you watch all the episodes, you never really get the sense, you know, the completeness you get here.
Yeah, well, that's because of the 10 minutes that we took from part one. I keep thinking we took something from another one, but I can't remember. Maybe it was just part one and part two.
I mean, in the originals, there was some sort of really outrageous stuff, like that one where he fought almost the entire army. You know? I mean, he fought like about 300 guys.
The one in the snow?
Well, there's one where he's in, like on the ground, like in that big field, and he's running through the kind of like grooves in the ground or something like that, and they're jumping in on him, and he's like fighting him.
Right, and then
That's probably part four, the one that Columbia took. Yeah, and the reason why it didn't work when they released it on it, yeah, it's very, very interesting that you brought that up, because it's true. Columbia Pictures did buy one of the series, and it was about 2 or 3 years before we did this, and they just ran it through their exploitation division, what do you call it, drive-in theater circuit, and dubbed, and it just went in and out. No one paid attention. And they probably put a lot of money into it, but it didn't work.
No, it seemed like a kind of a cheap exploitation for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to, when we were finished with this, when it was successful, I wanted to do another one. And I went through all the others with a fine-tooth comb. I just couldn't. Bobby certainly wasn't interested, and I wasn't going to do it on my own. But none of the others really worked. And then I started looking at the Zatoichis, and then by that time we got caught up with Killing of America, a documentary, so I forgot about it. But this was a one-off. It just couldn't. It's lightning strikes to the extent that it was successful as a venture creatively and financially. It just could not be repeated. You couldn't do another one. We couldn't take the others in the series and make them work like this. They just were too outrageous.
Actually, this voiceover coming up, I actually say Shogun and Harakiri in the same set. Although when I say Harakiri, you can tell I'm really trying.
You felt bad leaving her there.
Well, I mean, I think that the child's voice is really one of the best parts of the film. So in the long run, you did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to imagine how I don't know, the sort of ambient tone it gave to the movie.
Yeah, the idea of having the child's voice was definitely a touch.
Yeah, that was Bobby's idea.
I obviously had no clue whatsoever how that was going to turn out. It's like, okay, let's do this.
Well, it definitely adds like a softness and a humanism to the entire proceeding.
Well, of course, you ended on Daigoro with the a wish is just a wish in the freeze frame. Really sort of carrying it through.
That's at the very end?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, this is a great scene, because I never really seen like much Japanese cinema on sand dunes like this.
Women in the Dunes?
Yeah, Women in the Dunes. But I mean, having samurai out there on, ninja assassins.
A sedan chair?
They're here.
Yeah.
They must be here.
And of course you get the ultimate cut.
I feel them somehow.
Right. Now, that is dubbed by Marshall Efron.
Watching us.
Right, who went on to other very famous things.
Like what?
Didn't he? He was the character with the thing growing out of his stomach in...
Oh, that's Marshall Bell.
Oh, Marshall Bell.
Yeah.
Marshall Efron was the guy with the stereophonic... he was in the stereo photographs, right?
Yeah, he was a stereophile. Yeah, and I knew him from New York. He used to do comedy routines on public radio in New York, and he dubbed the voice of Mr. Verdecchio in Chow Manhattan.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, somehow I found something for him to do in every movie. He even dubbed something in Kiss of the Spider-Woman. He dubs the clubfoot.
Really?
Yeah. The funny thing is that Marshall is a strange character, very funny guy. I called him the other day, out of the 3-4 years ago. The numbers never changed all these years. And I just got right into the Verdecchio voice. And we have all this outtakes of Verdecchio, the Chow outtakes. So it'd be interesting to get him to come back and just keep rolling. Wish we could do that with Shogun.
I always thought this thing kind of led you into like doing Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Seemed like when I first met you were kind of out of movies. You really didn't want to do movies.
I didn't, no.
You were like very kind of against, you wouldn't talk about it. It's almost like you were a guy like, like a war veteran that had like,
Yeah. Vietnam.
Vietnam syndrome.
Stressed.
It's true. That's what I was trying to say earlier about, the 5 years in Chow Manhattan with Edie. And then Edie dies and everything. It was like, I just couldn't go back and get into it again, And this was the way I got back into it.
Yeah, I thought this kind of like definitely revived your interest in the whole
Definitely
thing.
revived my interest in filmmaking. And then I met Len Schrader through this, and Len and I did the documentary, for Japan with Mata Yamamoto. And then that led directly to Spider-Woman, because that was hugely successful, the documentary Killing of America. And the people at Toho Toa asked us to find something else, and Len had studied Latin American literature at Iowa Writers Workshop, and I'd lived in Brazil and Argentina, so I went down for the first time since the late 60s. I went down to Brazil to see what I could cook up, and met Manuel Puig and found that novel. So yeah, Shogun Assassin was a direct lead-in to Spider-Woman.
Yeah, the next thing I knew, you were on TV, up for an Academy Award.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you become very respectable.
I don't think that's true, but
Well, you seemed awfully good. Like sitting, didn't you think, Brian? You looked pretty good on TV.
Oh yeah.
When the TV flashed on him, I thought, I can't believe that's David Weissman up there. And you're up against some like heavy competition too, aren't you?
oh, for Best Picture?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about the cars earlier. You know, I don't remember how this worked, but we had a deal with the cars to do the soundtrack because of the trailer that we cut, and at the last minute they backed out. That was quite a story. I don't think I could tell that one on. Could involve some very powerful people. I don't like their names mentioned.
Probably would have to cut that out of the thing. Then you can talk about the one guy who did one of the original posters for this.
For what?
For the for Shogun Assassin.
Who's that?
The artist? Or the one you have the original painting at your house?
Oh no, that's for Kiss.
No, that was Shogun Assassin.
Oh, you mean Gary Painter?
Right,
Gary Painter.
Right, who had just you were attracted to his work because he did the Pee Wee Herman piece, and I brought a Pee Wee Herman poster over to your house.
Yeah. I went and had him do that because you were taking 2 months doing the illustration. I didn't think you were ever going to finish it.
Right. Well, I wanted it to be good.
So I got an original Gary Painter out of it.
Well, remember you gave me we had like one last night where I had to finish it. Remember? And it was like I had to stay up like all night long.
Yeah.
Until the next morning when the dawn came, and it was, I'd put the final finishing touches on it, and you pried it out of my hands and took it. It was over.
Had to go get CO2 tanks for you.
Well, he also had to, like feed me and, make sure I had a place to sleep.
That's true. At that time, yeah.
So when did you guys start working together?
A bit around when I was 15, like 88, 89, first time people started doing publishing with computers, and then full-time like 17, so about 20 years so far. It was nice having somebody sitting over my shoulder telling me whether or not my design work sucked or not. Very helpful.
I'm sure.
Well, remember what a big pain in the ass typesetting used to be? I mean, getting your typeset at like one of the big type houses.
It was just all
so when the computers came out, I just suddenly saw the possibilities.
Photos. Yeah, it saved you guys like $100,000 a month. He makes pretty short work of these guys. I was a little surprised. I thought it might. He is Lone Wolf.
It's too bad you don't have your original marker comp of this. That was like one of your masterpieces.
Yeah.
You did more with magic markers than most people have ever imagined.
I don't have any magic markers now.
Anymore?
No.
You see them as like a painting technique. I mean, you'd like put so much on that they would run together and like create like whole blends and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever wrote this guy's last line. I mean,
actually, I was just thinking about that when you mentioned this. This is actually in the original film. This dialogue run
about the blood sounding like a wisp of wind.
Yeah, and it was your subtitle translation, so it was so absurd.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like, I can't believe it happens to me, or for it to happen. Yeah, the ridiculous line. I was like, would that even be in that guy's vocabulary?
It was in the subtitles, so it's like badly translated subtitles, but it was so precious, we just had to keep it. And this is Marshall Efron's.
Yeah, the lead up and him talking about it's great, but that last word just kind of gives you a little chuckle.
Maybe that's the part that's from the original subtitles.
Yeah, I would
I'm
imagine.
not sure I can't remember. But if this would be the only thing from the entire film that was kept dialogue-wise.
This is where he introduces himself, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The guy in the sedan chair.
Yeah. That's where I got the...
There's your pose, right?
That's the pose, right. I love the double swords.
So that's basically like the Shogun's entire family at this point.
You can't touch me. I am the Shogun's brother.
Like his 2 sons and his brother.
Well, if you get into the plot, none of these people, there is no Shogun.
Right.
It's all this Yagyu clan of mystical ninja.
The Yagyus.
That beautiful finish with the blood on the camera finally.
His hairdo was just funky.
Like hobo samurai kind of thing
Totally.
going on. And then this great conclusion voiceover with Daigoro.
What did it say?
I wish it was different, but a wish is only a wish.
I guess I wish it was different. But a wish is only a wish.
Yeah.
Now we go into the endless end credits where all these various former marijuana dealers wanted to have their name up for long periods of time.
Yeah, I remember looking at, when I saw the end credits, I was thinking, some of these people, I don't even remember working on this thing.
Right. And did Gibran get a credit here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gave me a solo credit, which I
really
appreciate.
nice, yeah.
It's very nice.
Wow.
Gonna have to get a screen grab on that one and put it on my Facebook page.
Did that little actor ever do anything
I
else?
should look him up. And
Was that?
The actor who did that.
Oh, there we go. Lamont Johnson, Marshall Efron, Lenny Wonders, Vic Davis, I don't remember. My brother Sam did some lines.
Yeah, I don't remember your brother Sam there. If anybody wants to look Sam up in the Internet Movie Database, he became a well-known director.
George of the Jungle. Voice of Daigoro, Gibran Evans.
yes,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
This is squeezed because it's
There they are.
Michael Mayello was involved with Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Right. Remember Larry Francois?
Franchos. It's actually misspelled, Franchos.
Is it?
Yeah. You know I set all this with Letraset?
Yeah.
I did this whole thing with Letraset.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, excruciating.
That's how titles were done in those days, right?
Yeah, and then you can't letter space because once it's down, it's down. You don't want to buy another sheet.
Right.
Ugh. Letraset. Look how awful. Look at the leading. Oh my God. It's embarrassing. You see the disparate leading in the upper left and the lower right? Look at this. All over the place. Oh my God almighty.
It's amazing how many years people put up with Letraset, isn't it?
Yo, Bobby must have played some instrument in here.
Well, he got Overture composed and
Did he?
yeah.
Oh, so he did do some of the music.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. Think anyone's gonna listen?
I don't know. The Psychoacoustics by Malcolm Cecil, courtesy of Center. I just cannot believe the letter spacing on this Letraset. Good Lord.
I escaped that one narrowly.
You never laid type with Letraset?
I remember it floating around the studio, but once I got my hands on a computer, there was no Letraset for me.
All these people worked on Kiss in the sound effects. Becky Maurer was the assistant editor.
You remember when you used to get the galley proofs with the wax back, and you'd have to cut the galley proofs apart, and then
Oh, rubber cement.
yeah. You make a mistake, you have to rip the whole thing off, every bit of it.
Very good vault. See, people don't know.
Thank God for computers.
Yeah, used to be a what do you call it? Single-edged razor blade. People don't realize this was used for something besides chopping coke. His name is misspelled again.
I know.
I guess it was the same letter set.
You did it.
Yeah.
Billy
Look
Evans.
at the letters. Where's Billy Evans?
Production
Oh my
assistant,
God
Bill Evans.
almighty. Your
Uncle Bill. Nice.
And Michael's wife.
Hey, Gregory Boone's in there too.
You got titles by?
I forgot you put Bill Evans in the titles.
What did he do? He's the one that did the lousy letter set, I think.
He was actually pretty good at lectures. Well, look at Masa Tazaki got in there.
Well,
Igor. And Nelson Lyon.
Oh my God.
David Geffen.
Let's not go there.
I hadn't really seen these titles in a long time.
I haven't either. All right, that's
that was
it.
Fun.
That's the
it was a
wrap.
pleasure. Thank you.